had while I was doing DoorDash, and as well as some points that it can help you out when you do DoorDash as well. And for those of you who don't know what DoorDash is actually it's when you deliver food and or products to different people. For example, you can actually go from one location to another, and with that, what you're able to do, you are the middleman. You are the one from the store to the person at their house. This started happening because of the whole thing with the pandemic and everything. And one of them happened was some people didn't want to go out because of fear of contamination and everything like that. But for the most part, though, those of us who were brave enough to go out, we took the jobs and we were able to go and start doing delivery and things like that. So it became like a video game. For me, it wasn't like a video game. It was another source of income where I was able to actually go out there and to make things and to everything, but actually go and provide a service for people, because the people service industry is a big thing, because everything in life is about serving people. And so one of the things I think was really interesting about this is that the aspect of how you are able to go out there and do this. So for the most part, I live in New York. I live in Queens, New York, and what happens is that my area I work is sometimes over in Flushing and or in the Queens area. I sometimes usually end up in Brooklyn, and it just kind of works that way. I end up in Williamsburg, as well as in Bushwick, as well as different parts of northern Queens, as well as southern Queens, and sometimes even go as far out to Valley Stream and to even Hempstead, because the way that the algorithm works. I usually drive at night. My times I drive is from the hours of I go from about maybe sometimes 7 o'clock to 4 a.m. And I'm able to drive there because I spend a day with my family and able to do some work, as well as be able to get things done. And also, I like driving at night because driving at night is really kind of serene and wonderful. Not to mention, I can take some of my family members. I take my older daughter and my older son, or my daughter, and my wife also. We go driving together, and it's been really a good time of just kind of getting to know your family as well as just being able to spend time just driving and meeting people. But usually you don't meet people when you do DoorDash. You're kind of like dropping the food off, and it's a matter of just having to understand you as a person, understand what you intend to do, also understanding how you function and knowing yourself. So I'm going to tell you a couple of things and some pointers. I have some DoorDash stories, but I wanted to say a couple of things. One, so here in New York, pretty much you have to here in New York you have many people, which means different styles of apartments. When you go to do a DoorDash, you first thing the procedure goes, you have your DoorDash information, you have that information, you have to get a chance to pick which one you want. So there's certain places that you kind of don't want to go to. You kind of figure out over time. I've done about almost 1,400 deliveries in the years that I've been working at it. About a year and a half working at DoorDash, and so about 1,400 deliveries. And so a couple things I learned about doing that as a delivery person is that one of the things is you have to know your area. It's best the area that you know really well, because you understand how to get there. That's one of the things, because the DoorDash app sometimes doesn't help you out with your direction. The app doesn't even move. You know how you drive in the Google app? The app kind of it turns with you as you go. Well, in the DoorDash app, it doesn't move. It's kind of like that. And so as you're driving down, it doesn't turn with you. So, for example, you had to make a turn that way. I guess to your left. I guess my right. To the left, right? It's gonna have a thing where the line is like this, and it's gonna have like that turn to it. So it's not like you're gonna turn with it in the app, like the app you watching like on a Google Map, or you're following on the GPS. What happens as you're driving? So what happens? You end up turning. You have to kind of keep it in mind. So if you're gonna make a right turn at the bottom, it's gonna be like this, and it's gonna be a turn that way, on the paper. Or it'll be the reverse, because you're looking at it this way. You're gonna make a right turn. It's like that, as opposed to a right turn being like this, and and then the GPS moves and the car turns and turns with you like that. So it's kind of a dot, and as the dot moves, so you see like that and it continues that way. So you have to pretty much, number one, is know your address. I've had so many times where you have to do a check, double check, where I've gone to a place, and the way it works in DoorDash, right, is, for example, if the person orders the food here, right, and if there's a street like here, right, the DoorDash app will think say, for example, if the DoorDash app will say that the closest street is this street, when in fact the entrance of the building is over here. So many times you follow the map, and the map tells you go down this way, and you come this way, and your delivery is here, but delivery is actually on the other side of the building. You have to go to the other side of the apartment building, and then have to walk through the apartment building, and have to go up the stairs or an elevator to get to the floor where the person located over here. So the app will tell you this. So you have to kind of look at the location of the street. So the street address will say this is where you got to be at, and that's where you have to go to, as opposed to here. And so when you go in there, you come around and you park, or you find parking. That's another thing too, is parking, especially in New York City. This is why I drive at night, by the way, because when you drive during the daytime, you have to park by a hydrant or park somewhere where you have to kind of be quick about it, because if you park and they don't know what you're there for, they'll tow your car or they'll give you a ticket. And praise God, I've never got a ticket. I've never got my car towed. And so what happens is that you go to the location and you have to find a good parking spot, and that takes time. So the people are watching you when you're doing a DoorDash. They're tracking you. They're seeing where you're going. They're seeing what you're doing. So for example, you come into the house and also you do a detour. That will something they'll say to themselves that doesn't make any sense. Which reminds me to another one is the stack orders. When you get a stack order, right, in DoorDash, they usually give you like one order that's like the big number. For example, it might be $7 for this one, and the next one might be like $4 for the next one, right? I found this to be true, not just based on practice, that you go for the one when you get the stack order and it's two orders, for example, at a McDonald's, right? And you get a McDonald's and it's right, they pick it up. You go for the smaller order first, because the smaller order tends to be closer in the vicinity. So, for example, if you have a stack order, the first one you get is over here, right? But if, for example, or the first one you get is going to be on this side. But the one that's smaller is going to be like over here, and right here is where the McDonald's is. So if you're right here by the McDonald's, right, and you have the first order, which says go all the way over here, and then you come back, the person over here is watching you. They're saying, "Why the McDonald's is across the street? Why did you go all the way over here and come back?" And you have to explain, well, there's the stack order, and the order of events is, yeah, but I would do this person first and this person second. But what happens, I find that you can actually do this. You can go here, you can go deliver the food, and then from there, go to the furthest one away. And you have to know your addresses in order to do that, because what happens is if you have a stack order and it's so far away, like yesterday, for example, I had an order where I had to go pick up something in one store location over here. I had to go to another store location over here, and both things came back to one building over here. I ended up in Lafayette City, right? I ended up over in Lafayette City. So what happens is that when I had to go from this one to this one, I ended up in Lafayette City, and it was one address with delivery to two different places in the same building. So that was good. But you have sometimes where you have it where you go to one location, like for example in Astoria or something. I had to go to McDonald's in Astoria, and the first one I had to pick up was here. Was in the McDonald's, and then from there I had to go deliver to this one, which was really far, about a mile away, and then the food one was right here. So had I done the other one where I would have gone to all the way here, then had to come all the way back and deliver the food, the person down here would have said, "What's up?" So what I did by the grace of God was I went to the first person first, or the second person first, and then after that I went to go to the other person, and on the way back I got another order. So that's kind of like how it works in terms of like you have to kind of know how to work the system. And not really a system, it's more like, kind of a common sense thing. You have to kind of have a common sense to be the food warm. And also you have to deliver the food at a certain time. And when you do that, it's kind of like, your customer service. And always say thank you, by the way. Always say thank you. So that's one your address, you must check it twice. I always have a thing called check, double check. And I have my phone on my dashboard, right? I have it like my phone. You watch me on my phone right now. But my phone has a thing. I just attach it on the dashboard, made a masking tape. I made a little masking tape loop. So I put it on the masking tape loop, and it's able to be about eye level. Because I don't want to be like down there looking at it when I'm trying to drive up here. So it's kind of eye level, so I can actually drive, and then when I come to a stoplight, I can look and see where I got to go to next, and then continue. Or I had the person next to me. When I first started, I had the person next to me to navigate for me, but then I started understanding that the whole thing about it is that you have to know which street you got to make a right turn on or a left turn on, and you got to go and park, and then find a parking, and then you have to walk to the person's house. So it's a lot of little things you have to kind of be mindful of how to do it, because if you don't, when it happens, you waste time. And you don't want to waste any time. You want to be able to get to the point right quick. So first one is your address. Next one's a state of mind. It says, I know how to read the room. See, one of the things too, like I talked about when you go to a building, you have a thing when you walk in, you have this thing where the person is here and the entrance to the building is down here, right? So you have to kind of walk into the building, and you're not exactly sure when you first walk in, because it might be the lobby person, it might be the security guard at the front. You might have to go through that, and always you have to show your information of what you're going to do. So this is what I have to do. And so I have a DoorDash for this apartment number, and I say okay, and I say go this way, and I tell you go through it. But sometimes you walk into a room and there's no information. For example, you might see something that says 35D, right? 35D, which means that there's a possibility of an A, a B, a C, and a D. So you have to figure out, okay, well, how does that even work? So what I found, sometimes I walk into one type of building, like somewhere in Flushing, I had a delivery, and it was like 35D, right? Or 5D. Let's put it 5D, because 35, there's certain buildings that are super high and they have different buildings, but let's say 5D, right? So if there's 5D, that means there's going to be a 5A, a 5B, a 5C, a 5D. And that could be on the same floor, or that could be in different branches of the same building. Sometimes the buildings are branched into 4 parts. So you got wing A, wing B, wing C, wing D. And so that's one of the things. So you have to kind of know your Vulcan. Ever know your ability to figure out which one is what? Because if you go to the wrong floor, you're gonna end up on the wrong floor, and you're gonna be there, and people are gonna be like, "Hey, you don't belong here," and you have to go back down and find the right floor. And that's happened too. There's also like wing A and wing B on the same building, so there's a north wing and a south wing. So you have to be able to understand based on the address alone. For example, you have one like 25N or 7. You understand that this is kind of how the dynamic works. You have to be able to figure out this is where you go, this is where you have to do, and it's understand. So the one is you know your address. Number two, the state of mind. Know how to read a room. And right, so for example, if the room is on this side or that side, you got to be able to determine this is where it is. Accepting orders. Again, I talked about that with the stack orders. I already talked about that. The stack order, you get the one that's the closest second first. You can actually on your app have a thing called a task. There's like the 3 buttons. When you push the 3 buttons, it actually shows you how you can actually select the task that you're currently working on. Because for a long time, I would always just do the order of which they have applied it for. For example, you get the first order, and then they add a stack order. The stack order would say, this is how much it is. And so what would happen was that it would actually mess me up because I'm gonna put the battery in real quick. Because what happens is like it would mess me up because I would do the first one first, and the first one was really far away, and then come back. So I already explained that to you. And also, number 4, you have to manage yourself. You have to know how to manage yourself as a person because the thing is, I used to drive taxi cab, and in taxi cab driving, someone said to me, says, you can drive taxi cab all day long. You can really do that. But you have to know when to stop. You have to call. You have to be willing enough. In the taxi cab situation was, we had to bring the car back. I got the car at 4 a.m. I had to bring the car back by 4 p.m. So from 4 a.m. to 4 p.m., the 12-hour shift, I had to drive the car through the city and come back by 4 o'clock. Otherwise, they'd charge you for a lateness fee, and the lateness fee was $15 for every 15 minutes. So if you were late an hour, you'd be charged $60. So it was just terrible, right? Anyway, so the thing was, especially in New York City, because rush hour starts picking up around 3 to 4, so you had to time yourself and understand. So to get back, so that was kind of easier to do. With the DoorDash now, you can DoorDash anytime, especially if you get to Dasher status, where you get top Dasher status. You can dash anytime. You can dash. You don't have to schedule. There's certain people like some of the guys I listen to. I listen to Pedro, for Pedro, as well as I listen to Bentley Cooper, DoorDash area, as well as Morse Finances. I listen to those guys about how to do stuff. And I listen to a lot of different people too, as well, like Nugs and everything like that, but how they do their stuff. And each person has a different format how they do things. So you can schedule your time if you're not top dasher. And when you schedule your time, you're going to start working within the half an hour of the time you schedule. You can also change your schedule and do that. But if you're a top dasher now, you can go at any time you want. So because you can go anytime you want, you have the opportunity to go at any time. And that means you can also go and cash out. I have the card, so what happens when I get done dashing, the money gets delivered right to my card right away, which is really good because sometimes you want to get a sandwich or get some gasoline, and so you're able to, as soon as you finish, you can do that. But sometimes you got to kind of work out the strategy, because the strategy is this, if you start dashing, you have no money, right? You have to kind of work out a plan. If you have top dasher, you can do something like this where you can actually go drive for a little bit, and after that you can stop. But for the most part, though, if you just drive and you don't have any money, you can't really continue. You can't stop in the middle of an assignment. So we have to kind of finish the assignment, and after that, you're able to clear out the money, and then start again. One thing that happened to me one time I was doing a delivery, I mentioned this before, was that I went to I wasn't top dasher at the time. It was like during December, and I had a thing where I had to go and pick up some food. So I went to a Papa John's. I had to go to Papa John's, and when I got there, the guy said it was a big order, so it was like an $8 order. And I'm like, okay, let me do this. So I go in there to Papa John's, and when I get there, the guy says, no, I don't have anything for you. This is for our drivers inside. And I said, okay, well, maybe it's a mistake, right? And then so I unassigned, and pretty much I left, right? And after that, I was leaving, and I got another order, 2 more orders for the same thing to come back to the place as well. So I was like, okay, this is weird, and it's the same one. So I'm sitting there in the room, and I watch the order come through, and he says, no, it's for the driver. And so this was like, I was like, oh my goodness, this is crazy, because here it is, I was just here, just unassigned, and this is my last dash, right? I'm about to end my dash for the night. So what happened was, like, it's the long story end of it all was that he didn't understand what was going on in his own store. He didn't know that they called for dashers to come to pick up their food. He thought it was still a thing, but I haven't seen a guy since. I don't know what happened to him, but he really messed up my night, because it was going to be like a $24 order, right? To go with all the different things. But what ended up happening was he told me that this is not for me, this is for the in-house, and it was wrong. And so I wasn't a top dasher then. And what ended up happening was that I wasn't able to get back in to order, because he understood his mistake. He said, come back in. I said I had already canceled out for the night. So the thing was, like, that's one of those things where, I was really upset with the whole Papa John thing. I even made a video about how upset I was upset with them. But then later they rectified that with me because that guy, I don't know what happened. I haven't seen him since. But for the most part, though, I've been going back there and they've given me a lot of orders. So I've gotten a lot of orders in. So sometimes that's kind of how it works. They have a thing that says no tip, no trip. There are a lot of people talk about that, the whole tip, no trip. And how I see that, how that works out is you can do that. You can do the no tip, no trip. And so the thing is, just kind of like the movement is, you're doing this thing, you're using your gas, you're using your effort, you're using your ability, you're using your car insurance, you're doing all these things to just go ahead and drive. And you're trying your best to do a service for people. And, you're taking your time. And let's see, time you don't get back. So whatever you put your energy into, you don't get back. You're kind of trying to get an equivalent, your time for some cash. So you do your work, you do as best you can. But what ended up happening is that, if somebody doesn't tip you, it's kind of like you can do it without being tipped because sometimes they tip you cash. So what happens is if you forget to tip you, you do the order, they might just tip you cash. And that kind of works out great. And then you have cash that's not in the system. Or you have a thing where, the next person that gives you will give you a big enough tip. So, for example, like, I'll end up in a certain part of Queens, and there's people who don't tip at all, right? They won't give you a tip at all. No matter what, they won't give you a tip. So you do an order, they won't give you a tip. But another place you go to, and they give you lots of tips. Like, give you like a big cash tip. So you're like, okay, well, this works out great because but you don't know how it goes because one thing leads to another. So if I didn't accept the no tip or the tip without the money with the assignment with the no tip, and I ended up over this location, which puts me in line for this location, and this location gives me an opportunity to where I could get a big tip. Not to mention the more opportunities, and it's a relatively short distance. Then you take it. You take that opportunity and you go because sometimes you just don't know how it goes. Same thing with taxi driving. I used to drive yellow cab, and when I drove yellow cab, it was one of those things where you never knew where you'd end up. So you start one part of the city in Manhattan. I did a lot of stuff in Manhattan. I did a lot of driving in Manhattan. And you start at the bottom of Manhattan. By the time you take the person drops you in the top of Manhattan, and then from the top of Manhattan, you get something to the middle of Manhattan and back down to the bottom again. So it's kind of like you would just have to, by faith, because you're not sure where exactly you're going to go. So you'd be like, okay, well, I'm going to just go with this person, and then take that person to the next person, next location, and you get that was actually pretty good in that terms. So just kind of go over the things again. It was one, your addresses. Must always check your addresses because sometimes the address that they give you in DoorDash or the location that the little lines are leading you to, that the map is going to, is not the proper address. You have to find the exact street because that happened to me many times doing delivery. You have to kind of go to the street and the cross street, not where the map is taking you sometimes. You have to kind of understand that too. Your state of mind. You have to know who you are and how to read a room because you have to be able to navigate the building when you walk into there. Number 3, and you have to go all the way up to high rise, the top of the high rise buildings and stuff. So you have that as well. So you have to be able to know and handle yourself well. Let people know make sure you're good hygiene and everything too. You don't smell bad. You look okay. You're doing well what you're doing. And when you accept orders, understand that when you accept order, do the smaller stack order first, because that's usually closer to the location than the one that's the furthest one or the big one. Even though I know the person ordered first, if you have the timing right, you can actually do this really quickly. Do the smaller one first and the bigger one second. Because if you do the big one first, it's going to put you way out of your region, and it's going to bring you back to the same order, and they're going to say, what happened? Why did you fly past my house to come back to my house? And you're going to say, well, I had a stack order. Yeah, but Right, next one, manage yourself. You have to know when to quit. Know when to say, I'm done. Because if you don't, your body will collapse, your car will mess up, your life will be ruined, and all come to a nothing. Because what happens is that you're trying your best to do something that, you have to, at some point, take a break. So the last 3 days I've been working on just kind of updating this Allosaurus. And so here's a little Allosaurus I've been working on. And so in my last 3 videos, I talked about, or last 2 videos, because yesterday's video was about a rant I had at AutoZone. But today's was just kind of say about the things that you can do. And so one of the things is that the thing about this whole gig work is that you can supplement your income with the work that you're doing. Many people talk about how they don't do this as a full-time career. You don't want to do it as a full-time career. Some people say, it's a matter of how you need it, how you use it. It's like a tool. You don't love the hammer you work with. You just use the hammer, and after that, you put the hammer back in the box. And that's kind of how it is with everything. So you don't want to be like something where you're completely dependent. The cool thing about the gig work industry is that you can always find another job or find another assignment. Not to mention, like in my case, I do my art on the side as well as I do my driving on the side too. And then so I'm also trying to work up, my monetization has come back from my YouTube, so I'm really happy about that. So I'm trying to make more videos and try to do as many videos as possible to try and get monetization, as well as the super chats and things like that as well. So I just wanted to say thank you so much for listening. It's pretty much, I'm going to do another, tomorrow I'm going to see if I can do another dinosaur, another creature, and I'll be able to show you. So sometime around maybe 3 o'clock or 4 o'clock or something. Probably going to do a dinosaur creation for you, and live like I did before. And so I enjoy doing these live videos because live videos are really cool for me as well as for an opportunity just to share with you and to have my script written. Anyway, so long story short, I just want to say thank you so much for watching. Please like and subscribe to my channel. Please, if you haven't already, please like and subscribe. Also, if you have, I'd be honored if you subscribe to my channel because that's something that I can keep telling you about some of the cool things that I've experienced. I have some more things I can be able to present to you and design for you as well. So again, if you have any question about anything, please write me in a message. You will follow me on One Life Must Art on Instagram. Instagram One Life Must Art. Okay, so I just want to say thank you so much for watching. God bless you. I wish you all the best. And Sunday, the rest of Sunday, and those who have to go to work tomorrow, I wish you all the best and safe travels. Okay, so God bless you, and I talk to you soon. And thank you again. So this is the Allosaurus I've been working on, and I'm going to add more details to it in the future. Okay, so have a good day. God bless you. All right, bye.